All right, I am looking at Crumpin Fox here. I had somebody ask me about just the foresty areas on Crumpin Fox and how I did it. And so I told them I didn't really know what I did, so I was going to go back and look at it and kind of explain what I did. It's one of those things. I'm using VS Pro that you just kind of work. You kind of have an idea of what you want it to look like, and you keep adjusting the settings until you get what you want. And so the forest areas in Crumpin Fox are basically two things. There's two different biomes working together. One is this leaf biome that is just leaves, and that is from, let me look, I can tell you that's from this poplar leaves, which is in the meadow environment. Um, I put those, that's like the last thing I did. So the first thing I did was the tree biome. And what you can do is when you do a biome, let me just find any biome here. When it moves to it, I have this on my hard drive now, so it's going to be slow. Hope it doesn't crash. But what you can do is you can adjust the settings for a biome so that it will allow another biome to kind of, I guess, bleed through it, and so that they can both show up. That's my billboard. So I need to find a different biome that has what I'm talking about. Here we go, right here. So in this biome here, this vegetation blend settings, I throw the reds and the greens all the way up. I put my blend distance all the way to 300, and then I uncheck use noise. So when I do that, it will allow different biomes to kind of show through at the same time. And so I had all my tree biome, foresty biome set up. And what I basically did is we went through the whole course, and you might be able to see it with this. You can see this other biome of leaves that I just added around the edges. So if you go deeper, you're not going to see those leaves, because just for performance, you don't want to oversaturate. So there's that. So this is the forest area. So he was asking mostly about how I did this. So first things first is looking at the trees. Let me move that off and kind of get rid of them. This is what my floor looks like of the forest. So what I did here was I used Blender OPCD tools, red around the edges, on the edges, and did a lot of green. This is something one click you can do. You can see there's kind of a darker red. I think I may have done two passes, a harder red, a harder green, and then like a lighter green, based on the opacity or how, I forgot what it's called, the thickness of it or whatever. And then I went in and used this other tool that we have, the asset bundle. No, I'm sorry, wrong one. Oh no. Now it's going to get stuck. I use the texture array creator window on here, that when you go to that, let me show you, sorry. Go to texture array window, texture array creator here. You can pull up your arrays. This is a Moz thing. There's some videos about this. And you can add new textures in. And so this is the texture that is in, I think it's in either the meadow or the mountain nature manufacturers. And so when I do that, I really want that detail texture to really shine through. So this is the green. So I have the detail way up to 85%. It's the majority of, when you get this close, that's pretty much all you see in that area. But if you notice from far away, it starts to fade out because it looked really, really red and dark, and it looked funny from like a distance, seeing a hill, say back here, looking red. So if I were to put this up to like all the way, you can see that looks really bad. So I use this hit and miss, trial and error, figuring out what the good fall off is, what distance you want. And so I went with 100 here, fall off of just 10. And so from a distance, you see the green. When you get close and you're in the woods, you're going to see this. All right, so this is without the trees. You can see I added these biomes of leaves. I forgot there probably should be some down here too, and I forgot them. I thought there was some there, but they just give a nice little extra piece. And then if you, I don't know why, if I go further, I probably will see it. There it is. I did that a short draw distance, because really that's something you want to see when you get really close to it. All right, so now let's get into the actual tree biome. And I'll tell you kind of what I did by just looking through it. If this does not, hope it does it. Ooh, that's close. Okay, I thought it was gonna crash on me. All right, here we go. So let's add these trees back. Trees, whereas grassland, I think. And I use grassland because grassland, for some reason, my create biome mask from a mesh is stuck on grassland, so I just use that. Okay, so we can look right in here. Let's get out of this so that you can see that. So this is what I did. I wanted, when I looked at the flyover of Crumpin Fox, I noticed there was grass, but there was a lot of bare spots where the ground really shined through. And so to do that, I added, so you can see here, I only have 2 grasses. It's the rustic grass 3 and a seagrass 9. And that's these 2. Here's the seagrass on and off, and then rustic. They're pretty similar shades on that. But with these, if you look at rustic grass, what I used was this Perlin noise cutoff. And when you use that, it creates like a pattern of where it's drawing, where it's not drawing, where it's on, where it's off. And I probably did the same. I did not do that with the seagrass. So the seagrass is kind of in different spots, but I probably have the sample distance pretty high up. So that's probably one of the first steps I do, is just getting the grass looking right on the ground. And then I added a hazelnut, which is a acid. I'm not sure where I get my stuff. I get a lot of stuff in the store. I know the hazel cluster and the hazel bush are both in one of the nature manufacturers. So the 3 bushes I have are these 3. And what I like to do, and usually do with bushes, is I'll use another tool. Let's see if I used it in any of these. I probably did. Maybe I didn't. Okay, the hazelnut I did. So I did 2 things. The biome edge include rule. So this is saying those hazelnuts are only showing, I inverse it 1. So in 1 meter on the edges of the biome are where those come out. So this is really good. If you have this hazelnut's a fairly, I think, big draw, like tries and stuff. And so this allows it to be in just on the edges where you can see it. But once you go deeper into the forest, it disappears and it's gone. So it just gives a little bit, and gives it just enough that you see it when you are playing and when you're on the course. But then after a meter, you don't see it anymore when you come back in through here. All right, so that's that one. Let's see, tree-wise, I have another thing I did. This pine tree is also a higher tri count, and also this one doesn't have the best looking like billboard. I think there was something else about this. So the same thing I did with this pine to keep the tri count down is right here. I did the same thing, edge include rule, and I let it go 4 meters in. So if you go deeper into any of these forest areas, you're not going to see in there, you don't see any of the pine trees. When you get closer to the edge, that's when you start to see them. So that's probably about 4 meters in right there, right on the edge. So that's what I did with that one. Medium oak, let's see, I didn't do anything special with that one. That's kind of, that oak, like the medium oak and this poplar, poplar can be a little big, but it's, these are kind of my standard like fillers, and I didn't do anything special with that one as well for them because they have good looking billboards. They seem to be easy to use. There's the rocks. Now these rocks are in this, but what I did with rocks, and this is another skill, something you might learn, is you can put I have another video on this, you can put a prefab into your biome and go down and use with vegetation mask and the vegetation mask rules and give it a vegetation type. And so what that'll do is it will keep it from the biome unless there is a vegetation mask there telling it to plant it. And so right in this spot is a great example of that. What I did right here, there's a bunch going on right here. Okay, these are not the biome trees. What I've done here is I have the tree biome, the forest biome, then I put a vegetation mask down, and that vegetation mask says 2 things. It says to remove the trees, and then it also says to add vegetation item number 1. And so that's what I've done here. Vegetation item number one is the rocks, and then it removed all the trees, and I came back in and persistent planted some other ones. So let me see if I can find this to show you. This is where all these masks and stuff are very, very good here. That's a different one, but let me see. So you can kind of, use more than one mask in the same spot to kind of get what you want. Here we go. This must be it. So see, I removed the grass on that one. There may be three here. Let me see. It must be this one. Okay, maybe there is no grass. Let me look closer. Oh, there is some grass. So there's something. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. So what I've done here is use this vegetation mask to remove really the fuller grass and the trees. Told it not to remove the plants, so you still see the plants, and not to remove objects, so you still see tree leaves, and the rocks that I have is the vegetation type. Maybe it's 31 then. Maybe that's what I did. But that's what's going on here. So you can use these vegetation masks to take things away, but also to put some things back in. Now, if you look at the ground here, I used another. Here's a rocky ground. What I noticed about this area was it wasn't really like rocks sticking out. It was just like the ground was just like full of rocks. So again, I used my texture array creator, came into the details, and I found something online. There's another video I think about using Quixel to use different to create Moz textures and stuff, and I did that there. So that's really all that's going on. It's not as complicated as it seems. It's using that noise, that Perlin noise, to kind of let your grass be. That's the easy way. There's other ways to do it, but using the Perlin noise to kind of let your grass be bare in spots, but then also be there in spots, and then changing the ground up using your Moz textures and stuff to give it a different look. And then you can see right here that when you get out here, it's not as. I guess on this one, only the hazelnut was the one that I cut off early. Usually I cut more off early, but you can see right here it's a lot barer than it is right on the edges with the hazelnuts and the pines and all that stuff. And then it's bringing up, your game and going into play mode and kind of stepping back and seeing like the tries count, and then adjusting your VS Pro to get the look you want, but also to get the tries down. Another thing that's really important to do, if you're not doing it, is to really use your billboards to fill in around the course. So let me look at another spot where this. So I always do this. Is if you notice here, the first thing I'll do is I'll kind of spline out my trees usually, and I'll bring them around. This is actually a lot more than probably it should be here. I'm surprised there's this many trees that are rendering. But what I'll do is I'll kind of figure out how far. Like here's a great example. There's only about this small distance of actual trees that are rendering, not as billboards on this hole right here. So when you're looking from over here this way, you see those rendered trees in the front, but then in the distance you see all the billboards. See, there's only 1, 2, maybe 5 rows of trees, and then it's billboards back here. And if you get your billboards dialed into the right color, and when you're using gradient fog and maybe even a little bit of depth of field, then you can, like from back here, you can barely even tell that is the case. And so that also helps performance a lot, is only have trees render where it's necessary. Other thing like back here, those are all billboards, right? When you look right there, it's billboards. Sometimes even in the midst, I'm surprised here there's this many trees, because usually what I would do is I would take a big chunk out of this and make those billboards as well. I probably should have done that. I'm surprised I didn't, just to cut down on the tries count. So see right here, billboards are right there. The course is right here, and the billboards right behind this tee you don't really ever see. So that there's maybe 1 or 2 rows, trees, and then billboards. I think that's really about all I did. It was some of these things as you learn, you just kind of start to do them, and this area is actually, I have another grass biome that's just grasses. And so again, some places if I want more grass than that forest, then I'll again use this vegetation blend to allow for more than one biome to show through and add some more grasses. So that's kind of how I do it. The last hole, let me show you one more thing. I did the same thing as the rocks with my grass biome. I added a thicker grass, taller grass right here. You can kind of see it because that's what it looked like there. Again, same thing, that in my grass biome here. I'm not sure which one. Oh, maybe. Oh, that's what it is. So this seagrass is the one that I've. Nope, it's not. I lied. Let me see where I did this. I'm in the wrong one. Grasses. Here we go. Grasses. So I added one of these. Maybe it's this weak one. I think it is. I added again a vegetation type 2 vegetation mask rule. And so there's just a couple of spots where there was a lot of overgrowth of a different grass that was a little thicker. This is one of those spots. And so if I were to go to my mask area, I can find that spot. What I did was I allowed for the grass to still shine through. Here it is, but I also added in that vegetation item 2. And so wherever that biome of grass is, it will also plant that wheat grass as well to make it bigger. I think that's about all I did. Here's another example. You can see the noise purlin makes the grasses here and there, not everywhere, and then using 2 different biomes, one that has the leaves, you can kind of let some of the leaves flow out on their own. But yeah, you got to go around and just kind of click them all in there using VS Pro. I don't know as much about arborists, but that's kind of the way. Right here, as you see, it's the same grasses, but there's missing trees. That means I put a vegetation mask there and told it just to remove the trees.